It's always a good day to be accused of blasphemy by Unitarians. I can't believe they did that. It's so insane. And to cover up pedophilia and rape, too. I mean, it's like it's bad enough to accuse someone of blasphemy for any reason, but to hide the worst.
You got accused of pedophilia and rape?
No. I blogged about some Unitarian ministers. In fact, actually, I blogged about one specific Unitarian minister. And someone else who, to the best of my knowledge, was not a Unitarian minister, just like an ordinary church member, who'd been convicted of rape, and actually young girls. In the minister's case, he lured teenage Tibetan refugees away from their families in India with promises of a better life in America. I'm going to take them under my wing and get them educated. Well, they got an education, put it that way. He was charged, tried, and convicted, went to jail. Another guy who, as I said, to the best of my knowledge, wasn't even a minister, was convicted of raping preteen girls who were no older than 12 at the time the rape took place.
And this is this particular...
No, this is the larger community. This is in the United States. But the point being is I blogged about these cases, and was somewhat critical of what happened. And so I get this letter from the head office in Boston. They hired a lawyer up here. And here's an exact quote from the letter. There's other stuff in it too, but the blasphemy stuff is, your unfounded and vicious allegations to the effect that ministers of the association engage in such despicable crimes as pedophilia and rape are defamatory, and they're so defamatory that they constitute blasphemous libel, which happens to be a criminal act in the criminal code. Right. We have a blasphemy law. So I've had a lot of fun with that. In fact, the last letter I sent to the lawyer said, so you're trying to tell me that pedophilia and rape are held sacred by Unitarian Universalists? Because if I'm blaspheming against the Unitarian Church by criticizing pedophiles and rapists, then I guess they have to consider those things to be holy and sacred for it to be blasphemy. So I don't think I think they're regretting sending me that letter. But
I can imagine. Well, I can imagine that also. I mean, accusations such as those, they need to have a certain amount of evidence.
Well, as I said, these people were charged, tried, and convicted. Newspaper articles. My information came from published newspaper articles, so it's like, sorry, nothing unfounded about that. And the funny thing was, though, like I researched the law. Once I was accused of this, even if the premise was true, even if I was like falsely accusing ministers of pedophilia and rape, it would not be blasphemous libel. It might be ordinary civil libel because I'm, saying bad things about them. But again, unless Unitarians held pedophilia and rape to be sacred, it's not blasphemy against the church to say some of their ministers are. So it's just idiocy,
Is there a blog?
Yeah, well, I have a blog. Yes, I didn't erase one comma from what I put up.
How would I find it?
It's called the Emerson Avenger.
The Emerson Avenger?
Yeah, after Ralph Waldo Emerson, who's a famous Unitarian. It's based on a saying. I have a Twitter account. The name's Rob and Edgar. As I said, if you just Google Unitarian Church of Montreal,
you'll see.
You'll be there.
Go to YouTube. There's all kinds of stuff.
Great.
Anyway, nice talking to you.
Very nice meeting you.
And so how was it? Did they mention Jesus?
They did, quite a bit. Quite a bit, actually.
That's good to know.
Okay. Have yourself a good day.
Well, actually, you know what I find interesting? I think I already told you that they previously had me charged with disrupting the order and solemnity of church services for my protest.
Right.
Well, why do you think Jesus was crucified? What do you think prompted that to happen? A few days earlier, he went to the temple with a whip, and he caused a bit of a disruption. So essentially, from my perspective, Jesus was executed for pretty much the same crime that the Unitarians falsely accused me of in 2000.
That's our bad.
Okay, catch you later. Yeah, go get it. Yeah. You ever done? So it's the young couple that I spoke with earlier, and it's very unfortunate that I don't. Certainly I know that I did not get all of the conversation recorded, which is a shame because it was a really good conversation. It would have been nice to have the whole thing recorded from start to finish. I'm hoping there's at least a significant portion of it. Hoping there's at least a third or a half, or if I'm really lucky, 2/3 recorded, but I'm not so sure. Anyway, whatever is recorded will be available. And they said, will you be around when we come out? And, since they asked the question, I said, well, since you kind of like me to be there, I will be. So there it was. I stuck around longer than expected. On the other hand, I had thought of staying longer today, because it's Easter Sunday and there's more people and but I'm noticing, that I got like 14 minutes of video time available left on my memory card here, and I don't have a spare. I meant to bring a spare and I forgot. I actually have a bunch of used ones with me, but I think they're all full. I mean, if I rifle through them, I might find one that had some extra space on it. But I think I'm going to wrap it up. It's Easter Sunday. It's the 27th of March, 2016. Had a very good, somewhat Easter-themed protest today. Had some really good conversations with some members of the public, including that young couple who I just spoke with. It's been a great, really nice Easter Sunday protest at the Unitarian Church of Montreal. And I think I will go a bit longer, but probably not more than 10 or so minutes. People are exiting the church. I may actually, I may let this card fill up, and then I'll go through the ones I have with me that are very full for the most part. But if one of them's got some extra space, well, I may stick it in and stay a bit longer. I pretty well have to record everything to protect myself from false accusations brought against me by Unitarians. I have to basically be able to have video that shows that they're lying when they bring a false accusation against me. But on the other hand, also, sometimes they attack me. Sometimes they steal my picket signs like they did last week. So it's helpful to have video of that as well. Even if I'm not going to charge them or anything, because I often let shit like that go. Because I don't like to clog up the court system with bullshit criminal cases, unlike the Unitarian Universalist Church of Montreal, who love to bring bullshit criminal charges against me. I'm not going to have someone charged with theft necessarily for stealing a picket sign that costs all of $8 to replace, especially if I have video of them looking like idiots doing it. That's sort of punishment enough, as it were. I can blog about it. On the other hand, if there's extenuating circumstances, such as if it's a Queen's Counsel lawyer who steals my picket signs and claims that nothing will happen to him if I have him charged with theft, because, hey, he's a Queen's Counsel lawyer and he's basically above the law, well, in that case, I might actually have the person charged with theft. And that's exactly what happened when Howard, that's his last name, Kenneth Howard, Queen's Counsel lawyer in 2001, I think. Yeah, early spring, around this time in 2001, if I remember correctly. 15 years ago, wow, amazing. He stole one of my picket signs. He stole two of my picket signs. And technically assaulted me in the course of his theft by shoving me up against a pole. So when that happened, and he really should have known better, I actually did bring theft and assault charges against him, and they stuck. However, they stuck because he copped a plea. He pleaded guilty, kind of thing. It didn't actually go to a trial, which would have been quite interesting if it had. But he knew he was guilty. He knew he was in a bad spot, so he sort of got more or less out of it by arranging for what's called non-judicial treatment. So, and actually I think he probably manipulated the law a bit, but the point being is he didn't get off scot-free. His criminal acts were recognized as criminal acts. I got a very nice letter from the court, saying this does not diminish the nature of his criminal acts, blah, 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 whatever. It was very, very clear he was guilty of criminal acts, even though he didn't necessarily have a criminal record. And the funny thing was, is, you know, sometime later, he basically did another stupid stunt and got in my face. Essentially what happened is, you know, I was walking this way, he was walking towards me. I stepped to my right to give him room to pass me on the left and enter church. So what did he do? He comes out the outer part of the sidewalk where I am, walks right up to me, and falsely accused me of blocking the sidewalk. This is after he's already copped a plea to, you know, assaulting me and stealing my picket signs. So I just looked at him. I said, well, how's my favorite petty criminal today? Well, you should have seen his face when I said that. Just, you know, you could see the rage in his eyes and the shame too. I think he just sort of like crumpled, you know. And it's really funny because he just turned around, walked away. In other words, you know, he was on his way into church. He does a stupid stunt. I say, how's my favorite petty criminal today? Just to show what an idiot he is. And what he do is, like, he gets all enraged and ashamed, which he should be, because he basically was an idiot. And turns around, walks away, and I'm not joking, I never, ever saw him again. That was the last time I ever saw him. So I think Kenneth Howard QC learned a lesson that day, if he didn't learn a lesson earlier. And I think on that note, we only got a few minutes of video left. Well, no, actually, I think we got, what, 11? Okay, let's see how this goes. Now we've only got 2 or 3 minutes of video left. But yeah, basically it's Easter Sunday, and, you know, we're resurrecting, you know, some of the stupid things that happened in the past with Montreal Unitarians and the Unitarian Universal Association by talking about them on Easter Sunday. Oh, for heaven's sakes. That's Nancy Lorimer. Nancy Lorimer, that's the woman in the red coat. Hey Nancy, how's it going? So Nancy Lorimer. Nancy, are you still working for the Gazette? You still a Gazette employee? Because I seem to remember the Gazette never reported properly a whole bunch of shit that went down at this church. Might not, is it possible that you wield influence within the Gazette to ensure that they didn't publish the stories, Nancy? Is that a possibility? Just like to know. Or maybe it was Sue Montgomery? Or what's his name? Yeah, Mark, could it be Mark Abley? Yeah, Nancy, I'd kind of like to know if you pulled strings in the Gazette to ensure that they didn't publish newsworthy stories. Because it's a fact. It's a fact that the Gazette, on repeated occasions, has been informed about newsworthy stories arising out of this protest. And they've never, at any time, done a proper news report about it. In the early stages of the protest, and a columnist who I have a feeling was actually connected with the Unitarian Church approached me. She wanted to do a story. She ended up doing basically a hatchet job. Her name was Arabella Bowen, and interestingly enough, you know, a few years ago there was a president of the Canadian Unitarian Council called Elizabeth Bowen. It's possible there's a connection there. In other words, Arabella Bowen may be a daughter or niece of Elizabeth Bowen, and was basically put up to approaching me to do a story so they could do a hatchet job on me. But in terms of an actual proper news report about the protest, about the false arrests, about there's basically been nothing. What little the Gazette has published has been done because Montreal Unitarians wanted it done. They were trying to get their spin on it. In terms of a fair and unbalanced report, nothing yet, in spite of decades worth of protest, in spite of being falsely accused of disrupting the order and solemnity of church services, in spite of being falsely accused of the criminal act of blasphemous or libel, in spite of being assaulted, in spite of having, you know, my picket signs stolen, in spite of numerous incidents of SPVM police interference in my protest, the Gazette has not properly reported on this protest. When I was arrested for disrupting the order and solemnity of church services at the Unitarian Church of Montreal in December of 2000, this was the first time in 20 years that anyone had been charged under that law. The previous charge under that law was some Roman Catholics who refused to stand up to receive communion. They were traditionalists. They wanted to kneel to receive communion, and they did that, and they were charged, tried, and in fact convicted of disrupting the order and solemnity of church services. But they appealed that conviction, and they won the appeal. So they were in the end acquitted. But that was, a case of people in a service itself doing something or refusing to do something that maybe kind of possibly disrupted the service a little bit. I don't see it as being a real disruption of church service, which is why I think they were acquitted upon appeal. I don't think they should have been convicted, but that's the last time anyone was charged. I was charged and tried and acquitted of 176.3 in the Criminal Code, which prohibits disrupting the order and solemnity of church services. I was arrested in early December of 2000. The trial was delayed for various reasons. And essentially what happened is I totally destroyed the credibility of the prosecution witnesses. In the prosecution phase of the trial, I cross-examined Jeremy Searle, Montreal City Councillor and Montreal Unitarian, who I believe put a lot of pressure on the police to have me arrested. I think he pulled some political weight there to have me arrested. I'm sure other people did too, but there's no question that Jeremy Searle wrote letters to the police demanding that they arrest me or do something. And he was one of the two main